Soul Garden. Live, love, be.
Good day from my smartphone to yours. I'm casting love from Lake Merritt in Oakland, California, and this is your Tuesday Namaste Today. Good morning and namaste, and welcome to Namaste Today. I'm your host and spiritual life coach, Christopher Witecki. My modality is psychic astrology, and my mission is to stand in my heart and help other people into theirs. Welcome, my friend. This webisode is for Tuesday, February 2nd, 2016, and today the great human walk has reached the climactic step 13 Aquarius, indeed. And let me first say thank you and my apologies for being off the air. As you can see, I've already had my breakdown and breakthrough. It happened actually Saturday night. And it's funny because I was thinking to myself, really, this is a transit for me about how I approach myself in my own relationship. And it was like, I was ahead of my game. I had all my stuff ready to shoot next week. Like, everything could not be better, really. And still, I found a way to hurt myself. So, you know, live and learn, my friends. And if you have a breakdown, try to be easy to yourself. I think part of the lesson right now, at least for me, was that God was there for me. You were there for me. And if you have a breakdown or breakthrough in the next 24 hours, you will find the universe is there for you. Let's begin with today's vibe. I'm predicting it's going to be sunny, electric, with a chance of shock today. That's due to the combinations of things going on in the planets. First, step 13 Aquarius. Now, step 13 is the Grandmaster step of Aquarius. It's Grandmaster because Aquarius rules the number 4, and a 1 plus 3 makes a 4. That's how we calculate this in step astrology. And so that means that we have a purebred Aquarius day. Now, it's not just a purebred Aquarius day, it's purebred right in the middle, right? Because 4 would be the first breakdown, 13 would be the second, and 22 is the final. So it's been my experience that this can be the most surprising breakdown for people, especially in Aquarius, because Aquarius is as far as it gets from our hearts or Leo. So we really get an idea of where things belong or don't belong in Aquarius. Therefore, we're often up for a rude awakening. So don't be too surprised if you're a little shocked with election results today, or maybe even a little shocked with yourself, or find yourself in shock for other reasons. Really, I think the best thing to do is to cope with it emotionally. Now, looking at the different states of awareness, today our heart is on innovation. That's really where our heart is and what we're focused on. So everybody wants better right now. Everyone wants to be greater, do better, and go farther. And that's the intention underneath. So try to be nice to yourself. But the I feel state of awareness, the moon, is in Sagittarius, and unfortunately it's in the early degrees of Sagittarius really for most of the day. So that means that we're up for some rude awakenings as far as what we felt we believed, okay? Saturn's in Sag, I'll show that later in the Zen Den, but this is the area of life where we're all growing up. Even Donald Trump, about what to believe or what not to believe. So it looks like we're all in for a bit of a shock, particularly in the first half of the day, both in the sense of things are not quite what you thought they were, and they're not quite what you thought you believed. But the good news is there's a lot of other energy here to break through. Mars, the I am energy, is pushing us today to do what's spiritually right, and that means self-compassion. And that's really what I want to put out there for you today, to be self-compassionate today, to just allow things to happen. We can't go into the full dynamics of how manifestation works, but the truth is that whatever you're experiencing today and yesterday, you manifested in December. You set it in motion in December. Your attitudes, your decisions, and whatnot set it in motion in December. And how you respond today through tomorrow is really going to determine how March turns out. So let's be compassionate to ourselves. There's not too much we can do to change what's already set in motion. And if we are hard on ourselves right now, we're only going to create a harder time for us later in March. So it's one of those kind of take your medicine and do the best with it as you can. Now, Saturn has shifted to step 14, and that means ultimately we've all decided that we must discover and go where we belong. you may not yet know where you belong. So in the next 36 hours, emotionally, you may be learning and processing what you really believe, what you believe life should be. This is all probably repercussions of the shock that has hit between, let's say, Sunday and Tuesday morning for people. And so what I'm saying is, looking ahead at the astrology, it really doesn't look like people are going to truly know where they believe and belong till the end of the week, which will be Love Fest Day, by the way, on Friday. So, your joy quest today, should you choose to accept it, is to honor your feelings and not judge. Honor your feelings and not judge. Really understanding how you feel is the best thing you can do right now. You simply won't have enough information for a few more days, so it does not serve you to judge. All right? Well, let's move on to today's topic, and I'll give you some clues on step 13 and radical innovation. Today's topic is belief equals belonging, the true nature of individuality. Now, before I dive into this, I thought I would bring up the 5 o'clock question because I think my question today really illustrates what I'm trying to describe. And this is it. Have you ever found yourself in a situation that felt so much like you, but then you turned around and realized that no one around you was anything like you? I'll say it again. Have you ever been in a situation in life where you thought it was so much like you, but then you turned around and looked at the other participants and felt nothing like them? All right? And I bring that up because that's happened to me a few times in life, where I've been in a Buddhist church where I've been like, oh, I so belong with this Buddhist church, I so belong with these people, and I look around, I'm like, I would never hang out with these people, ever, if it wasn't for this particular common ground. I've also thought of another example. I think every time I go to the 4th of July, I love 4th of July, I love fireworks. I'm not a patriot, like as far as USA, but I am like a patriot when it comes to like, this is my family, this is my home. So I really like that part of 4th of July. But I gotta tell you, every time I go to 4th of July fireworks, I'll be sitting there like, so patriotic, but then I'll look to my left or look to my right and I'll think, I can't stand these citizens. You know what I mean? Like, these aren't even my people. And I think it has to do with the nature of really what belonging is about. Step 13 Aquarius tells us how the belonging consciousness works, okay? The 1 is that you love and trust. That's a 10, basically. And the 3 is that you believe. So when you love and you trust and you believe, you belong together. Now, loving and trusting that you believe does not mean that you're going to look the same. It doesn't mean that these people are going to be from the same neighborhoods. It doesn't mean they're going to eat the same thing for dinner. It means that when humankind really unites along what they believe and what they love, I think everyone is going to be astonished at the other people that believe and feel they belong there too. In fact, I think that's how God guarantees individuality. Think about it. Everybody has a right to come together under a common belief, but we don't want to be a bunch of clones. We don't want to all look like each other. We don't want to all say the same things, but we do want to come together. And I think as human beings, we have a hard time doing that because, especially in corporate America, we've made it seem like everyone has to look the same to feel like they're together. Or everyone has to have the same amount of money to feel like they're together. Or everyone has to order their cappuccino the same way at Starbucks to feel like we're together. And really, if you look at the architecture of the universe, it's the exact opposite. It's that when people come together under common belief, not one person in that place looks alike or is the same. The only thing that's the same is their heart and their belief inside. Every other part of it, they've been allowed to be a unique individual. Every other part of it, they've been allowed to create complete free choice. So when we unite by our hearts and our belief, we actually allow for the most extreme individuality that there is. Because once you know you're united on this little thumb, you know you can run amok in all other areas and still be together. I think this is an important time for the United States of America because I think we've forgotten that we all have a common belief, that we all believe in love and life and liberty and living in happiness, not pursuing it. And we don't look the same. We don't choose the same clothes. We don't listen to all the same music. And that's okay. In fact, I'm glad. I'm glad that I can be unique and that you can be unique and we can live next door to each other. Now, I think that that is a very high thing to pull off. I think Aquarius is the last belt of energy that human beings simply do not understand. I think that Donald Trump thinks there needs to be a wall between us and them. I think Hillary Clinton thinks it's between men and women. I think there's a lot of dividers out there. But the truth is, if I can give you any advice as you are out there watching the polls and watching things, that individuality is the consequence of coming together under common belief. So look for the common belief in your heart and theirs, and accept that you're completely different, and that's awesome. That's the freedom of incarnation. That's what true liberty is. I'll leave you with this one little interesting point. You may not know this, but the United States of America is a step 13 cancer. Not a step 12, step 13. That means that we are a nation that came together because we love and trust the same way, and we believe three in the same things. It also means that we're going to look very kooky when we're lined up next to each other in a lineup, because when you bring those common things together, all the other steps besides love and belief are going to be open to interpretation. So let's take a look at today's Zen Den and see what the planets have to say about this radical re-evolution. Hello friends, and welcome to the Zen Den. And it's a beautiful day out here in the cold. In fact, I'm actually grateful for the cold. It feels good on my hand. Before we go into the planets though, I'd like to take 3 breaths with you, and maybe you'd like to join me, and let's see what Spirit has to say as well. All right? Okay, and actually I had quite a conversation with Spirit just now. I'll share it with you in a second. Kind of interesting. I think it's because I haven't taken time to meditate in the last 24 hours, so Spirit's like, all this stuff came out. First, the affirmation. The affirmation is, I love and trust my heart today and accept where my beliefs lead me. I love and trust my heart today and accept where my beliefs lead me. And so it is. And that's basically saying, that's kind of like almost like I'm thinking of a Huckleberry Finn kind of attitude, you know, or Tom, you know, that whole thing where it's just like, all you got are your bare feet in the river and where you're going to head out. And that's kind of how it is when we're going down the path of loving our heart and believing. We don't know where there's going to be a turn in the road or where it's going to end up. All we know is we got ourselves and we believe. And that is what is the basis of human innovation, truly. So I'm going to use my left hand to snap and bring up our chart here. There's a few things I want to bring up. Like I said, it is very much a radical day today. For starters, the sun is at step 13 and Pallas is at step 4. Radical. Now, I don't talk about Pallas very often, but Pallas, in essence, is Jupiter's spoiled rich daughter in mythology. So wherever Pallas shows up, it's kind of like Paris Hilton. You know there's going to be some big party where we spend way too much money and put too much energy. Now, having Pallas at step 4 in Aquarius at the same time that the sun is at step 13 tells me we are in for a shock, friends. We are in for a major shock because the universe is pushing our buttons on the 2 areas that need to be pushed at the exact same time. In the case of Pallas at 4, it means that we're not going to have really any issues with the bottom level of letting go of the bottom because we're going to know we're okay in the middle. So when you have that kind of a planet that's giving you security on the lower vibration, that means you can really trump ahead, and maybe even Trump will trump ahead. So that's the first part I want to bring up. But the second part is what I brought up early, is with the moon. As of press time, the moon is entering Sagittarius. I have programmed in serious me-alerts for when the moon hits 4 degrees, by the way, so everyone kind of knows when shift's going to hit the fan. But as you can see, the moon is on approach to Saturn, which is at step 14. So Saturn at 14 says, anywhere in the next 36 hours, the moon's going to cross over Saturn at 14, and that means human beings will have to emotionally cope with where they truly belong. And their mind will have a hard time getting its mind around. That's because 14 adds to a 5. So this will be one of those things where people are saying, I'm seeing the polls, I just don't believe it. I'm seeing it, I just don't believe it. And that's what I mean is in for a shock. So we're in for a shock on an intellectual level, we're in for a shock on an emotional level. Now, Where are things good, you might ask? Well, this is what God brought up for me in spirit, was Neptune and Chiron. Neptune, in fact, I didn't even know the numbers in my head. The spirit was like, Neptune's at 8 and Chiron's at 18. Now, maybe my subconscious remembered that, but my spirit guides told me that when I was quiet. And what my spirit guide said was, people need to decide, basically the Neptune. You basically, for all this change to go down, for you to accept, whoever ends up in the White House, for you to accept what's in front of you, for you to accept the journey before, you must decide, step 8, that you have faith, Neptune, in God, or however your God is. And I will say, honestly, to share with you, that I couldn't figure out why I ended up hurting myself when I was so on top of my game. I've never been so on top of my game. I've never started a year out feeling so good. I've never really had my things in order, and still I hurt myself. And what I realized was, I thought I'd lost my wallet. I thought a lot of things had happened, but I actually found that Creator was there. Many miracles were there. I was actually totally taken care of, more than anyone I think would be in a position that I was in that moment. It's not even a big deal, but the point is I realized, wow, Spirit's still there. So I think what Spirit wants you to know is, people really, it all comes down to what your faith is. Do you really believe Spirit's with you or not? And if you're having a hard time dealing with whatever's going on out there in the stars and this wacky Aquarius energy, ask yourself, well, you believe in Spirit or not? Either you're going to be helped or not. Are you in the cold, or do you have Spirit with you? And you might even ask Spirit or your guides for just a little sign that they're there, because I'm not going to tell the story now, but eventually there's a couple of sensei stories out just the last 3 days of where God has totally been there in such an obvious way for me. The last thing I will put out there is Jupiter. Jupiter is at step 22 retrograde in Virgo, and that means that reality will change as soon as you do. So a lot of people say, oh, reality never changes, things never change, things don't ever change. Your astrologer is saying, it's just waiting for you to say it's going to change, and it will change. So for those of you who count on nobody getting up and doing anything, or for those of you who count on nobody actually trying, or for those of you who are counting on people not going to the polls and not voting, I doubt it. It looks like reality is about to massively change here. And it's going to be really from what we decide and come to in the next few days. Love Fest is on Friday, and that will be when we really seal the deal. It's going to be a Black Rose Love Fest, by the way. I already analyzed it. It is the darkest Love Fest I've ever seen. It's so interesting. We'll talk about it on Friday. But it's a bittersweet. I think it's going to be good in the end. All right. So I think that's it for the planets today. Yep, we'll stop there. I will say that I do intend on doing a Love Fest here in San Francisco, and I am actually going to move it to Saturday, so I'm going to try to move for this Saturday. I believe I've identified the location. It'll be in Fisherman's Wharf, a little restaurant hotel with lots of parking, okay? And really it's just to come have chowder, tea, whatever you want, and come meet Sensei. It'll be Saturday. It'll be around sunset, and it'll be for a couple hours. So I will post that here in the next 24 hours. I'll also post right now that I'll be in Los Angeles holding a Los Angeles Love Fest 2 weeks later, the same weekend as the Conscious Life Expo. And you don't have to go to the Conscious Life Expo to come meet me in the Love Fest. I'll have more about that as well. If you have any questions, just email us at help@soulgarden.tv. We are very slow to respond for a lot of reasons, but we will not respond. All right, my friends, thank you so much for your patience with me and sending love and prayers. I really think I'm healing twice as fast as the normal Joe. And I'll see you in 24 hours with more. Knock on wood. Until then, remember, I love you, and live, love, be.
So